All right, we're live. Will.
Oh, cool. Hey, g'day. My name's Will. Our opinions, as we speak, are on our own. But we work with AI on a daily basis, and we thought we'd have something to share with you that you might be insightful
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. Hey, my name is Min. I'm one of the AI engineer in Will's team. So we work together to provide AI solution to businesses, and we're pushing the technology all the way until to its limitation. Yeah. So we have some insight to provide with you guys in terms of what the technology is capable of doing, and some of the challenges and the problem that we face when implementing the solution for our clients as well. Yeah, so with that out of the way, I think it's a good time that we start the podcast. Will, what do you say?
Okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds good. So I think like what we do in principle pattern, like start with like just seeing what we see in the market, and then go into a little bit about the technology.
All right,
Yeah. So I think
all right, sounds good. So I guess the first topic that we talk today is probably about how recently OpenAI they got $110 billion investment funding from Nvidia, Amazon, and SoftBank as well. And based on my research, right, I think that's just gonna set a precedent for the future on how AI companies are going to be constructed. And I think based on the funding and the research as well, I think these AI companies, right, they are becoming more than just SaaS company. They are becoming a behemoth in terms of compute, in terms of talent, and in terms of technology, and in terms of scale as well. So yeah, I'll probably put up the first article, and we can walk through it, and then we'll get your reaction. Will, is it better for you now? Is it in for you?
yeah, it's good. Yeah, now I can see.
So this is the article that's written by OpenAI, and it was released on the 27th Feb. So this article talks about how they are announcing that they recently received 110 billion funding investment from various tech companies, from Nvidia, Amazon, as well. Yeah, so a major part of this funding is going to go to compute, distribution, and capital, right? So like based on my research, the first talking point that I want to get your reaction, Will,
Yeah, okay.
um is just yeah. So yeah, we just talk about the fact itself, right? So they raised $110 billion from Amazon, Nvidia, and it's just not money, right? It's a signal that these AI companies, they are now being treated like core infrastructure, right? They are getting all of the compute they can from large, major cloud providers. Yeah, and they're raising capital to secure compute, cheap access, cloud distribution as well, and enterprise platform, and becoming a long term infrastructure dominance, not just more than your traditional SaaS company, right? They are getting into compute, and they're getting into distribution at scale as well. So yeah, so what's your reaction for
Well,
that, Will?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Like OpenAI and Anthropic and well, I'm not sure. But we would actually consider themselves actually SaaS companies, right? So we're but I get what you mean by them being like almost like too big to fail. So just getting themselves right into the infrastructure. So being part of well, what I understand is that the rise in the US stock market is pretty much driven by the AI investment, right? And so the big bet in like changing everything is AI. And then that's why they're talking about um, the bubble, and and so and then like you have people doubting whether or not all the stuff that they're doing, all the investment, all the money that's pouring into the market is actually going to be worth it, and like to bring in the rewards that we see. But we both see it, right? We both experience it, and I don't know. There are when I look at it on YouTube, there are still people who think that it is just for a hoax, not a hoax, but still a little bit of a scam, and AI is not really real. But we both see it, especially because like we both program,
Yeah.
and we know that it just writes everything out, doesn't it? I mean, like you don't need to write code anymore,
Yeah.
and Anthropic, I think, well. So over the OpenAI, the latest release, they just don't code anymore. Like 90% of their new releases are just all basically code assisted. And then like you know that like people are using LLMs to actually um, uh, produce code, and we know that like Anthropic, for example, is getting like what was it like 20 billion right now from just like because they concentrate on the corporate corporate sales.
Yeah.
So at least we know that's a revenue. But I think like from what we see, I believe that like there is something in it. What do you reckon?
I think it's becoming something that we have not imagined before, because like if you look at like the previous the previous typical unicorn in Silicon Valley, right? Like most of it is heavily based on like SaaS model. So they have the
Yeah,
technology, they have the distribution, and they have the data. But this model is quickly changing, right? These companies, they are becoming more than just a SaaS company, right? They are getting all of the compute, not just compute, but like they're securing future compute as well. By utilizing the funding that they get, right? And you can see here that they are working extremely hard, and they are spending like billions of dollars, like to bring or to like create like the world best engineer, right? And I think that's just like scary for a lot of people, because a lot of people, they spend 3 4 years at uni, right? And they take decade, 15 years, 20 years to accumulate the skills of software engineer, right? And then their skills is quickly becoming, I want to use the right term here,
oh come on, big one.
overtaken by codex and Claude code, right? So I guess it's scary, and yeah, and I think this is just a start, right? Like $110 billion is just a start, right? I think the next round is going to be like $200 billion, $300 billion. I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. What do you reckon about that, Will?
I reckon, yeah, well, it's pretty up to the limit. I heard even Google is trying to borrow money now, actually, or some sort of like bonds to actually raise money, which is unheard of. But why would people need to do that? Or was it Facebook? Don't know actually.
Yeah.
Can't remember. But like, yeah, so there's a lot of money being poured in. I understand it's bigger than anything that's been poured in, like since the Industrial Revolution. Um, yeah, it's a big bet. So the money has made a big bet, and like it's interesting that. So you're a early Gen Z, is that right?
I think I'm Gen
What
Z. I wouldn't say, yeah, early Gen Z. Yeah.
you're early Gen Z, right?
Mm.
I'm an older yet. I'm not older yet, right? And what I find is that if you guys that are coming out, I find it you find it a little bit harder to actually adjust to the new world
It
than,
is
than
difficult.
some
Yeah.
other guys. Because I don't understand why you guys are finding it harder to actually adjust. To actually,
I think the reason, I think for me, right? I think the reason for us is because like we were in the middle of the transition, because like this technology only came out, let's say like 2 3 years ago, 2 3 years ago, right?
yeah,
So 2 3 years ago, like people still had to learn how to write code line by line, right? They had to read the function, and they have to be immersed like into the code base so they can do their work. But now with the paradigm, and 2 3 years ago, right? And like and because and like to write really good software, right? You need to spend a lot and a lot and a lot of time, right? It's not
yeah,
something that you can like. It's not something that you can get become professional within like 2 3 years, straight out of uni, right?
yeah,
That's not reasonable. Like it is a skill that you need to accumulate, over a long like decades of your career to be
yeah,
able to write code at a production
mm,
level, right? So I think for me, I think it was difficult because like I was caught between that transition,
mm,
like writing code line by line, and now like you have like codex and cloud code that can write pretty much the entire software for you. So I guess it's difficult because like you have, because like in terms of like writing code, right? I think Claude can pump out like it's like it's
it's
like
great
like
now.
thousand like
Well,
thousands of lines,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
that's not humanly digestible for any early engineers, right? Like the engineers
mm,
are still in their early career, and like to be fair, I would say like even like seasoned engineers seasoned engineers, right? I don't think they can be. I don't think they can read like thousands of lines of code like every single day, days in and days out.
Yeah,
That gets written
but
by AI. So I guess the solution for that is that you don't just stop reading code. You just trust AI to do it because it's not.
no, no.
I think it's like I think in my opinion, and this
Yeah.
can be controversial, right? I think it's
Mm,
unethical for human to
mm.
read thousands and thousands of lines of code that get
Unethical?
generated
You say
by AI.
unethical?
Yeah,
You say
unethical.
unethical.
Yeah,
How is that
because it's
unethical?
I think it's I think it's unethical because it makes the job like really stressful, right? Because you
All
need
right.
because you need to read a lot of code. Um, yeah,
Well, two
yeah,
things, right? One, I think like Andrew N, like he was commenting on vibe coding before. He doesn't like the word vibe coding because he thinks it's like it's actually it's not vibe, it's an intense operation. So
mm,
it's the most exhausting thing that he does because he actually reads and inspects the code as it goes along to make sure it's right.
yeah,
And that was like maybe 18 months ago when, or maybe a year ago when it wasn't that good, right?
yeah,
But now it is super good because you know we can rely on it. So it's really interesting that you say that you feel left, maybe left out and you need to have that experience. So like old guys like us, right? Me, like because like we're at a point where we probably like review code, yeah. So
yeah,
we would have like at a point where we would like actually potentially delegate work and have code reviews and look at it. And so we understand the patterns and we understand how to read it. So it is natural for us, right? It is actually a natural extension of what actually happens. So we, put out the spec, we put that you set it forward, and then you get the code and you read it and you understand that where will be effective and you can point out by just reading it that there is a problem. So it's a beautiful situation. So I think what people don't get is that and especially like people who are like my generation, who are maybe a little scared of AI, it is actually the perfect time for them, right? And not in just in programming, but also in other fields, because this is going to stretch into all sorts of um, fields that require, like, analytics, yeah, anything that requires thinking, and it would be like the people with experience that are just like supervising and reading and understanding without actually doing. Because I think like what's happened is that the doing has compressed so much that it doesn't cost anything to do something, but to understand and to delegate is the trick, and
yeah. I
that's
think,
what's fun.
like, do you think because like because like how software, right? Like it's
Yeah,
like before the age of like AI and Claude and Gemini and stuff, right? Like software that were like handcrafted by software engineers, right?
oh
By
yeah,
developers. So like they have their
yeah,
own flavor, they have their own quirks, and they have
yeah,
their own
yeah,
like feature. Like like each
mm,
application have its own like uniqueness,
yeah.
right? But then because now like everyone's using Claude Code and Codex,
Mm.
right, to write software. Do you think it takes away like the uniqueness or like the craftiness of like building software because it's coming
Well, it takes
like
away the
from one source,
bugs.
right?
Well, it takes away the bugs in the crap code. No, I mean no, no.
Yeah,
You
what's your
get you get the
reaction on
right.
that, right?
Uh, um, what? I mean, what when you open up Word, you go, oh, I can build a character in Word that makes it interesting, right? You just want it to work. So
But
everything
like
then
that's how
inside it,
yeah
right?
but like that's how like book authors, right, like
Mm,
they take like months like years to like write one book, right, to write one book, but because like they're investing their emotion, right, they're investing their sweat, blood and tears into that book, right,
yeah.
it makes that book unique and you can feel the words that the author has written in the book. But like if it's like AI generated, right, it takes away that emotional part of like writing a book or like writing a software. What do you think about that?
Have you used Excel and have you been brought to tears by the Excel artistical stuff that you get out of it? I don't mean yeah, right?
But
Like
for me,
yeah.
right, for me because I get emotionally attached to
Hmm.
like coding because like coding like
Personal.
yeah because like you write beautiful piece of like code and it
Yeah.
starts to work, right, but then now like AI like it takes away the fun of that, like it does it for you, right, so you lose that emotional part of like your piece of artwork.
Yeah, no. No,
Yeah.
no, I understand. Because programming is a creative exercise,
Yeah.
but like you can get creative
Mm.
from like what we're doing now in terms of like doing specs, doing direction, in reading and getting out and putting it together. You're playing with the bigger blocks. And to tell you the truth, right, it coding is probably in the past, not now, right? Is was probably a young guy's game, right? Because I don't think I would have the energy that you would have had. Say there was no coding left
Mm.
to actually write a huge bit of code to actually do something significant, right? To actually sit down and churn away in the old way to actually construct it. Because like old guys are like us, with the family, tired, and all that type of stuff. Can't do it, right? But it was a young guy's game. But now we got the fastest thing on earth that's just pumping that out. So world's changed.
Yeah, the world has changed, and yeah,
Mm,
and to go back to like the research that I brought on my screen, so because you can see that like these AI companies, they are investing heavily on like infrastructure, compute, data distribution, talent as well. Like these companies, they are paying AI researcher like $1 million in yearly
mm.
salary, right? So they are scraping for talent like anywhere in the world that they can find. So based on this information, how do you think that will play with like large enterprise when they try to adopt AI technologies, right? Because now it's not just about the model; it's about infrastructure. It's about the underlying data that gets trained on this model and the available compute as well. So, what do you think is like the implication, for companies that are trying to leverage AI solution, or like try to leverage AI to build their business solution?
Well, I think the compute is really a race to actually get this thing called AGI, right? The artificial general intelligence thing, right?
Yeah.
That is supposed to like give the West or the essentially competing against China that advantage. So that's the pressure to build the compute and build the big data centers, and also to run the things as well. Right? But I personally believe that we'll get to a point where it's probably good enough to do a lot of the um, analytics and the processing that we have on just your on our normal systems, right? Not on the big gigantic data centers. And then like I think like as companies evolve, that whole entire view of like keeping it private, keeping it proprietary will actually come into that phase. And that like people will look a lot more at like maybe having smaller language models that are specific
Mm.
to what they want to do and have it in private, so running their own hardware. Because like the thing is, it's this is the worst it's going to be. It's just going to get better, and
I
so like we'll be able to run on less powerful computes, and then companies can bring it all in house. So that's going to happen, I think, probably next year, couple of years. That like we'll be able to like bring it on in house. And big data centers are really just potentially a big power game for countries to see where they go. I think that's just my humble opinion.
I think I really like what you said. Do you think there is a market for SLM, or do you think, or do you
Yeah,
think, or do you
definitely.
think, or like
Without
do
a
you
doubt.
think, or do you think like these model they're just gonna become like so intelligent, and the cost is just gonna go down. Um, the cost is gonna go down, as they have more compute available, and like essentially everything's gonna come straight from like these two like AI labs, like OpenAI and Claude. Or do you think there is,
And
or do you
Google,
think, or do you think there is
Google's
going to be a
into it.
market for
Google's into
SLM
it as
model as
well.
well?
So I think it will get cheaper, right? I also think there'll probably be new breakthroughs as well.
Yeah.
But I also think that because as they get cheaper, we can specify the models, and the companies will want to find an edge, and that's where the SLMs will come in, or the private models will come in. Because in the end, like if you have all these models, just um, it basically brings the average. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
like, sure, you are able to query Claude, ChatGPT, but eventually it just gives you the average consensus of what's actually out there. People need Companies need to find the alpha, right?
Mm,
That edge, and to get the alpha, you need your own data to actually give you the edge, and I think that's where it comes in. But yeah, that's what I reckon.
okay, okay, I see.
Um, but okay, so if you want to move on, or
Now, I think I got one final question for you.
okay, right,
Yeah. So I guess this question is more about using your imagination, right? So Will, imagine you are a CEO of a bank, and
okay,
you are tasked with selecting the foundational or like frontier AI model, for your
mhm.
bank, between OpenAI, Claude, or Gemini. How would you pick the technology and why?
Right now.
Yeah, right now. Imagine.
Right now will be too much of a risk to actually just jump on one. If it was right now, it was too much of a risk. I wouldn't jump on either of the three and dedicate myself, right? Because who knows? It's still that frontier is still expanding.
Yeah.
So I would pick a system where it is actually where I can just I wouldn't risk the company by saying that I would land this particular infrastructure or this particular provider. I mean, that would be dangerous. I mean, like Gemini was number one about like a month or so ago, right? But now it's all Anthropic, and now ChatGPT, and then OpenAI has come with the Codex 5.4. Yeah, that so it all changes, and so the next month after this, I reckon Google could come back up. So if you're a large company and a bank, if you go to one provider, then what happens when if your guy loses? It's not worth the risk. So you want to make less.
Okay. So right now, like based on your experience, but like based on your opinion, it's not worth the risk to go all in into one provider.
No, no way.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. That's a good answer.
No. Hmm. All right. So my bad. Okay. So we've both been working with a so what we've been developing is like you can kind of look at like different evolutions of the genetic system. So like I think like about a year, or so probably less than a year ago, we were all about like using LangGraph. Um, well, LangGraph in a traditional way where it is just like a workflow, it's just stuck, and it's almost like a RPA type of deal, but with our own cores. And in a lot of ways, that was probably not that great. What do you reckon? It was like when we started working on it, it was kind of cool. It was better than just a chat
Yeah.
interface, but
Yeah.
like it just didn't seem to be like fully AI. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I don't think it was fully AI in my opinion, and I think a lot of people mistake that for like multi-agent like type of system, right? Because you're calling the API through each of the steps within that workflow,
Mm-hmm.
so it kind of like simulate the behavior of a multi-agent system, but I don't think it was a multi-agent system. Um, and I don't know if you noticed, but like I don't think I saw any types of like AI workflow that gets really really popular. It kind of stopped at like a fun project or like yeah like
Yeah.
I've never seen like I never really saw it went on like a big scale like types of like operation, right?
Well, the, it did. I don't think it fulfilled the promise, right? Because it was just a workflow, right?
Yeah.
And with a lot of LLM calls that does like probabilistic determination at a certain point, and then it just moved on, right? So and then it just had the same problem where when you hit edge cases, you could actually break and stuff like that. Nothing really fantastic out of that, I think, right?
Yeah.
So then we had the second stage where the reactor came in, right? So the observe, act, and think type of look. Yeah.
Yeah.
So from there we had the self orchestration. So we found that out, right? And that was done a while ago. But then it's secrets. I mean, like the special short source didn't actually land. Like the longer memory, the reactor loop. What else was there? Okay, the better model. Yeah. So
I
then
think I think I
what
think
else?
yeah, I think the React loop was enabled by the capability of the foundational model, right? So they're able to, I think they got better data to train. So they're able to
Mm.
think and reason a lot better compared to like your GPT 3.5 or your Claude GPT 4.0. So I think it can reason better, and because it can reason better, it can plan the next steps a lot better. It can pick the next tool a lot better as well. Yeah, so it makes the React loop much more
Yeah, better models,
robust.
yeah.
Yeah,
When
yeah, yeah, better
4.6
model.
came out, and 4.4 came out. So in that case, it was like a self-orchestrating thing, right? So in
Mm,
that case, it covered all those edge cases where like set what they did.
yeah,
And then it could also remember things, so they had a better way of actually remembering things. So that was really cool, right? But then then it was tool use, right? So it was like a human being, where in terms of you react to things, you're able to self orchestrate your flow, but then like to actually get any input, you need to use things, right? To actually get input, and so they open up the MCPs and all that tool use. So then, for example, with OpenClaw, you can to use the CLI. So it's great. It's a lot of surface area to actually get in data, right? So that tool is thing. Um, so back to like the models that you mentioned, right? The stuff that came out. Gemini 3.1 is probably the smartest model but out there. It probably it is. I mean, like in terms of the benchmark, I think it's scored like 16 of the 16, it's about 13 of the on top, beating any of them country modeling competition. And but we know, right? We know from just listening on Reddit and talking to people, it's not that great in terms of what we really want to use for it, like the coding, for example, right? So it fails on using tools and like those long um, business process type of work, yeah.
yeah,
So why was that? Right? It's like it's deep mind. It's like the smartest guys in the room, Google.
yeah.
Um, what happened? What do you reckon?
Maybe. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I think for me, I think the reason why Anthropic is so successful, I think it's because they focus, like, isn't like they focus a lot of their money and research on the model capability, like training the model. And I also think that they also spend a lot of time into how they can leverage this model to the best of its ability. So they spend a lot of time to think about how they can better manage the context and how they can intelligently call like the tool as well, right? So they have different ways to call a tool. They can yeah, they can do it like programmatically, right? So they can they can tell the model to create the code in a sandbox, in a code execution sandbox environment, and then execute it and then just get back the result instead of like loading everything into the context. So I think they spend a lot of time in. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, we went offline. Like it takes a lot of time to to become an architect, right? Because like becoming an architect is not about coding, right? It's about understanding system, and
Yeah, but what,
that comes with experience. Like it's not something you can learn from like uni or like courses, right? Because
true.
you need to understand like first of all like real system, like how they behave, and you need to understand like cloud technology as well, right? And you need to
Hmm.
understand
Yeah,
what else?
yeah.
Um, and like things like operating systems and networking and all of
Hmm.
that stuff at a very fundamental level. So
Yeah.
yeah, like it's I think that is like a lot harder than learning
Yeah.
like writing code, because like writing
Yeah.
code is it's yeah, I think writing code is that
Oh, it's
it's just
author. It's
tedious, right?
author, right? It's author, and it's like yeah, you're right because you need to learn the fundamentals before you actually run it. It's like when you're in school, you learn long division before you are given the calculator to use it, right? You need to understand the fundamentals, otherwise, like you're just pressing the magic numbers and it's just coming out, right? You
Yeah,
can't do that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's I think that brings back to the problem, right? It's like most uni students are like junior engineers, like they can't even like they're still on the L's driving license, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And we're
yeah.
giving and Claude Code, it's like we're giving them like F1.
Yeah,
power.
yeah,
Yeah, to the to
yeah,
the junior
yeah,
engineer,
and you're
and it goes
and you're running to
fast.
the wall, break something, yeah, and you're like, oh
Yeah,
god,
and you
you
go
disturb,
and
yeah,
you go in the F1, right? And you go full speed
yeah,
and you hit the pit. Yeah,
you
that's
hit the wall, yeah.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. But look, like I said, like young people need to always come up, right? Because old people will die, right? So they just need to come up. So and so you just have a longer learning period. That's all that happens. And what look, my best time, what was one of the most funnest times in your life? Probably going through uni, right?
Yeah, uni
So
was good. I love uni.
is that period of learning. So you guys will just have, for the time being, an extended period of learning where it's less stress, right? And it'll be all good.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think that's another point that I want to bring up as well, right? Because I think in uni it's like when you do things at uni, right? Like it's like the risk level is like quite low because
Mm,
like if anything you just get like a low mark, right? And then you fail the class and you repeat it. But in like a
mm,
real corporate environment, in like a professional environment, right? Whenever you talk about like architecture or whenever you drive like an architectural change, right, that carry a
mm,
certain amount levels of risk because if
mm,
the architecture fails or it underperforms, right, it would affect the businesses, and because
mm,
the businesses is affected, right, that would have a
mm,
leading or like the cascade effect on like the employees and potentially like the market itself, right? So yeah,
true.
I think
True.
junior engineers not yeah they're not they don't have the maybe the experience to handle that levels of risk.
Mm.
Yeah, and
But you
combine that.
learn.
Yeah, you learn, but yeah, I think it makes it difficult, right?
Well, look, I think the way we actually form our team, it helps out. That it's like you've got the mix of experience and new people with blood and understand things, and like um, yeah, I think the way we structured it in our team seems to work out. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, mm, yeah. So what do we talk about next week?
I think for me, I want to talk about the how OpenAI recently they solved the technology or implemented the model for the Department of War,
Mm,
and I think right now like the situation in the Middle East is very interesting, right?
yeah.
And yeah, and I think it's a really interesting chat
Okay.
for next week
All right.
because
Um.
it talks about less about tech but more about like the ethical side of like these technology because at what point do we at what point do we say that these models
Yeah. You maybe look at the
is allowed
environment, the impact and
allowed
so
to
on.
like to destroy that facility or to like kill that person, right?
Oh, yeah, okay. And you might want to look at the environmental impact as well. Of like, is it really worthwhile by like so much energy to actually create an island? Things like that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting topic. I think I might delve a little bit more into technology a little bit.
Okay.
I think like maybe there we go. In terms of the intricacies of like doing probably evaluation and
Mm.
how the exact model works. Yeah, so we'll see. All right. So
Sounds
right.
good.
Yeah.
All right. I think that
Okay.
concludes today's podcast, and
All
we'll see
right.
you guys next week.
Yeah. Cool. Catch you around.
All right.
All
Catch
right.
you guys. Bye.
Bye. Bye.